Welcome back, folks, to Michiana Main Lines. Today we're going to take a look at another abandoned rail line here in the South Bend area. This is going to be the old Pensy line, which ran between South Bend and Plymouth, Indiana. Here we see the main map up here to get our bearings straight. We see South Bend up to the north, Plymouth to the south. In red are the two segments we're going to be taking a look at. In South Bend, it'll be the Conrail line, which ran from about Touch Street down to Ireland Road, and down in Plymouth a portion of Conrail line that ran from the old east-west Pennsylvania to just north of town, and that was operated by a little known short line called the Plymouth Short Line from about 85 to 90. So we're going to kind of be digging into those two segments here. So let's bring up kind of another map here. A closer look at South Bend, and that's Plymouth there. We need the South Bend one. Kind of doing this voiceover after the fact again, so I'm kind of looking at what comes up and then taking it from there. Okay, there we have the expanded South Bend and the Conrail line, which ran from up around Touch Street down to Ireland Road, which they called Studebaker Park, it looks like on this map. X's kind of denote where the pictures are taken that we will be showing, and you also see there the east-west connecting track which joined, but we're going to be concentrating on the Pensy today. So now we're going to bring up one of the ZTS maps again and kind of look at the detail of the amount of industries there. To the right is north, to the left is south. Up there is Touch Street, and that was the Rhodes cold storage leased building, the old Studebaker complex buildings, which were still taking freight by Rhodes in the late 70s. Not sure how long that went on, but I definitely know late 70s. We'll take a look at a few pictures of what the track looked like over there. Then down around we see Old Fort Supply was another business that took freight at one time, a couple lumber yards. And then down to the south the track went. We'll take a look at those areas, but now starting out here at Touch Street again. This is Touch Street looking north when that building was still standing, and we see what the siding looked like there. Again, I remember boxcars being set out there in the late 70s. I remember driving down Sample when they were pushing some cars in. If only cell phones were around then to snap a picture, and unfortunately I didn't have my camera with me, but boy, that would have made a great shot. We can't get that anymore. Now looking the other direction again, this is Touch Street, which Touch Street is gone now, by the way, too. That's now a substation. But there we see the old Rhodes Ice Company building right by Sample. To the right was the Dewdrop Inn, now the Drop, and then of course Sample Street running east-west, and that's what the track looked like at that time. Road switch was one of those switches, probably that main one right there in the middle, but that's kind of what the trackage looked like not too long before it was finally removed and abandoned. Now we're going to head down a little bit further south. First we're going to bring up another ZTS. There we see the ZTS map, the Ewing Street area. Ewing Street, modern warehouse. That was a big freight customer. We're going to see some pictures of that. Also, Fab Steel had a siding. I don't remember anything going in there, but they did have it. There were two tracks crossed Ewing. I thought that was kind of a passing track, but not according to this. There's all the AM General we see to the left. A lot of sidings went into AM General at the time, and of course there was the bi-level unloading which took place down at Chippewa. We'll get a much more detailed look at that here shortly, but first let's start with the Ewing. Ewing Street looking south. And there you see the modern warehouse with boxcars being spotted at this time. This was sometime in the 80s. The old Kroger, that is now a repurpose type store over to the left. And there we see the two tracks very well that crossed Ewing. But now that has all since been removed. This portion being abandoned sometime in the 2010s. They actually even had the rubberized crossings there at that time. Now let's bring up another shot. This again was Ewing Street, looking down Ewing, and that was a shot of the Conrail local pushing southward. It looks like it has bilevels which were en route to Chippewa for unloading. That was a pretty hot and heavy operation in the late 80s into just about the early 90s, and we'll get some pictures of that. But first, let's concentrate some more on this Ewing Street area. There's a really good shot of modern warehouse with reefers spotted. They also took dry freight as well. Now I'm not sure, later I believe this became Hanson Cold Storage. I don't know if they bought out Modern Warehouse or if that was two separate companies. I'm not exactly sure on that. Somebody might know. But to the right you see what was once the main line. Now we're going to have, I believe, a nostalgic shot here. This was down at Ekman Street looking south, and this was a shot of the Pensy back in 1952. Sandy Goodrek photo from October, and that track of course all gone now. That was the Sibley Foundry complex you see there over to the right in the background, and pretty much wilderness and vegetation has taken over most of this area. Not exactly sure when this track was pulled, probably sometime I suspect in the mid-90s, maybe early mid-90s, as soon as the bilevel unloading stopped. And now here's another good shot. There's Chippewa. There's all the biloading tracks that were there. Up top you see the long spur that went into AM General. There's Baker Rubber. They had a spur and took freight. Weisberger also had a spur just north of Ireland Road. And there was also a spur into the petroleum tank area just to the north of the bypass. Not sure how long that was used. South of the bypass in between there and Plymouth, that track was pretty much all abandoned in the late 70s, some of it under Penn Central. In fact, it never even got as far as Conrail operation. But now let's take some good detail shots down at Chippewa. Again here, Chippewa Avenue looking north. There's the bilevel ramps and bilevels spotted for the unloading that took place here. This was very hot and heavy business in the late 80s into just about the early 90s, when Conrail opened up a new, more modern facility for doing this in Elkhart, right adjacent to the yard. And so then this activity all stopped. Again, Chippewa, this time looking south. You see more bilevels spotted there. And over up to the left, you kind of see a spur down the line there going to the left. That was that Baker spur, which that was still used into the 80s. Now let's see what's up here next. This is a look at that single spur going into AM General. This was looking north. That track is actually still in place today, probably because it's on private property and the salvagers weren't able to get it. But of course it has nothing to connect to at this point. It's all the mainline trackage is gone, but that's what it looked like. And a south view of that same track, you see how it kind of went single down south toward Ireland Road, where it finally did connect in with the main line. But now that all is gone there, and wilderness has taken that over pretty thoroughly. Now we're going to jump down into that Plymouth area. Well, actually we're going to take another look at Baker Rubber, it looks like. I thought we just covered this pretty well, but there's a good look at those spurs there. Again, you see up top how that line went into the AM General, and kind of what that layout looked like. Now let's move on here. Thank you. Get down to the Plymouth area and start kind of breaking down that area. There's Plymouth. To get our bearings straight, there we have the east-west old double track Pensy, which became single track in the 80s under Conrail. That's now the CFE that operates that. still used today by CFE. There we have the Norfolk Southern, now operated by E&W, which ran northwest to southeast through Plymouth. That's still there today. And then in red we see what was left of that Conrail remnant just to the north side of Plymouth, and that was the Plymouth Short Line, which operated from about 1985 to 1990, primarily for car storage from what I understand, and we'll see a bunch of pictures of this shortly. And again, north of there to the south side of South Bend, that pretty much all went in pieces in the late 70s, much of it under Penn Central, because there really wasn't anything except for a few businesses I'm aware of south of South Bend that were still taking freight, so that went pretty early on. But now let's bring up the trusty ZTS again, this time looking at the detail of Plymouth. North is to the left, right is south, up top is east, and down is west. Again, you see all the business that there were. That's pretty much the theme when you look at all these Conrail ZTSs. This was from 1985, and I mean, look at all the freight takers that there were. Of course, the NIPSCO team track up to the north, Young Door. I have a shot of a boxcar sitting in there during the short line operation, and Agway had a couple complexes. There were team tracks. There was just a lot of stuff going on there in that area. So that's kind of a look at what the Plymouth area there looked like. Now we'll shortly be jumping into some pictures and kind of see what that operation looked like. Like I say, a kind of a little known operation. Many aren't even aware that there was a short line operating down there, but there was. This is right in the center of town. You see the Plymouth Water Tower there looking up to the north. There was what was kind of the main line with a siding to the left, but still in operation at this time. This would have been probably been taken right in the late 80s. There's a good shot of the tank cars in storage. That was a large segment of their business right along First Street in Plymouth. That track is all gone now, and that area looks very different with a lot of housing, new housing taking the place of where the track used to be. But this was a shot of what it looked like in the heyday. Another shot here, again, First Street over to the right. That I believe is the main track over to the right, and then we have a siding and probably a team track over to the left. And then you can see some of those tank cars. Again, this is looking south, with some of the tank cars sitting there in storage. Kind of a light shine on the rails, so it was still being used at this time. Now I'll get a look at their locomotives, the two industrial switchers that they had. Number 135 is the first one up. At this time it was kind of already land-bound on, it's actually a remnant of a spur there that it's sitting on, but you can't even see the rails anymore. I don't believe these locomotives were already being used at this time. I don't know how long they actually used them. Here's a shot of the other one, number 134. Same situation. I've been told that they were possibly using a trackmobile in the later years, which was owned by one of those businesses that was a customer, but I'm not sure of that. I haven't been able to find anything out about it, but that's what the locomotives look like when they were in still fairly decent shape. Here's a shot from a video that's somewhere on this channel if you want to get a better look at the inside of those locomotives. This was the Indiana Rail Locations 1990 Part 1. There's much more of a video look at the inside and the outside of the locomotives, if that's something you're particularly interested in. This was when they were starting to really be neglected and vandalized, and I think pretty close to the time when they were finally removed off of the property. But that is available on this channel if you are so inclined to get a little deeper dive into that subject matter. Now here's a look at Laporte Street. This is where the line kind of made a sweeping curve to connect with the main Conrail, the east-west Pensy, formerly double track main line. And this kind of shows there was a switch there and another siding, and still in place at this time. Same street now looking southward. East-west main line is back there in the distance, but this is what the kind of the interchange area where freight would have been left by Conrail. And then of course that Conrail line changed hands a couple times. I believe Norfolk Southern was operating it for a while, and then finally it became the CF&E that it is now today. But this is what it looked like when these tracks were still in action here. That's the old Pensy. Okay, so we're going to close here now with one final shot. This is a look at Ewing Avenue again. This is a clip taken from the video Conrail Local Chase, which is a video also on this channel. So if you want to see some more action of the south side of South Bend, be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this, got some information out of it that's useful, or maybe at least a few laughs, and got entertained one way or the other. But until next time, take it easy. We'll see you.